This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
Thank you for joining us on Raising Me. This is a podcast where we talk about our experience as parents and then look to the experts for guidance. I'm Adrienne Stein, a mom of 3, ranging in age from 5 to 16. Navigating a little bit of everything right now, actually. Well, today we're diving into a topic that, frankly, I don't know a single parent that hasn't struggled with this. Social media, screens, all the devices. Today, we're revisiting just a few of our best guests on this topic, well-known experts in their field, who helped us at least begin to find a healthy balance and solutions here. We're going to start with Kath Nibbs. She is a longtime child therapist who specializes in trauma, who went viral for her hot take on social called "Modern Children Are Not Okay." Kath has a TEDx talk. She's from the UK, and boy, we had a candid conversation about parenting in the age of the internet and that viral video of hers, which we will have in the show notes. Here are just some of her key takeaways.
I've been in the technology space and engineering space and computing space for over 30 years. I'm beginning to show my age a little bit here. But my children grew up with somebody who had an inkling of what was happening, watched and monitored what they were doing, engaged with them throughout all of their processes of gaming, social media, got curious. And then I went to work as a psychotherapist, working mainly with child trauma. And what I started to see, this is going well over a decade ago, were the children coming into the practice that were telling me about cyberbullying. And when I went off to do my master's, I was speaking to other psychotherapists, counsellors, and saying, what do you understand about cyberbullying? And I was finding a wall of silence. And it gets me angry. It gets me so angry that we are failing children, and we have been failing children in the online space for 27 years. The internet is 27 and a half years of age, nearly 28. And we don't have in place a coordinated system throughout the world, because there are so many different rules for so many different countries and so many different ways that we access the internet, that we have failed a generation of children. And those children are now adults. And it was working with my social media manager, and we were talking about the kinds of videos that I might do. And I actually said, I've got a couple of rants to get off my chest. And that was one of them.
Kath says regulations on tech companies really aren't the answer here, rather coming together as a society, plugging in more as parents, having those conversations with our children about where they are online, where they've been online, and where they're going in social spaces. Her metaphor in particular on city parks and shopping malls may have you rethinking your strategy too.
So it's an absolutely impossible job nowadays to be a parent who is, so often I see the term digital parent, technology parent, parenting with technology, media literacy, digital literacy. The problem we have is understanding, so I'm going to use an academic term, it's the nomenclature, it's the words we use to describe these spaces. What I would say is, generally, I talk about a metaphor, and this is the easiest way for parents to really grasp what the technology space is like. So we all know pretty much what a sports match looks like, and we all know what a city park is like. So if I use the metaphor of a city park and I say, okay, let's go with, I don't know, the city park in New York. When you go there, I would expect that it's quite clean, that there isn't dog doo-doo all over the place, that there isn't fighting and racism and child abuse and all, I don't know, discarded drug needles. You would expect that the park is looked after. And if you were to take your child to that park, you would say, and this is the way to understand screen time, you wouldn't say you can have an hour in the park. You would walk through the park, you'd talk to your child and you'd say, okay, that group of people over there, we need to be just a little bit careful because maybe they're having a drink of alcohol. So we know that people who have drink become less inhibited. So as a precaution, what we would do is we would keep our distance. And that dog over there has got a muzzle on. So what we wouldn't do is we wouldn't go over and start patting the dog. That's the way that we parent generally. And when it comes to the online space, we've been led a merry dance, and it's not the fault of parents, okay? I really do want to emphasize this. We've made an assumption that those online spaces look after children in the same way that a city park is maintained, and that there might be people patrolling the area, making sure that there aren't any crimes and that there's law enforcement and there's places children can go and call up a friend, or there's open spaces they can go where other children can be seen and they can collect together, but also they can be watched by a number of parents. What we actually have in the cyberspace at the moment are city parks with the worst kinds of criminals and perpetrators of crimes against children in those parks. So when I say that, that sounds terrifying, but not all of the parks are like that all the way throughout. So what you have to do as a parent is navigate each of those park environments. So let's just take the most popular social media platforms, Snapchat, WhatsApp. They are, again, I'll use a metaphor, a little bit like a shopping mall. I know you're based in the US, so I can use that phrase, right? A shopping mall. There's lots of shops. But who's in the shops? What are they selling in the shops? Are there any secret corridors in the malls? Who's loitering around the malls? Who's patrolling it? Where's the law enforcement? How does a child go and seek help in that space? So again, looking at, for example, Snapchat, there are things that will identify where a child is in that shopping mall or in that city park. And that's the part that we call Snap Maps. There's an artificial intelligence bot in the system that children can talk to. And whilst that sounds really safe on one hand, what is the bot advising and suggesting to the child? And what kind of relationship is the child forming with that AI bot? And then you have the shops. Some shops have videos of ASMR type videos and sounds, and things that children like. And they do get called satisfying videos. But then there's the news, and then there's the local feed, and then there's the groups they can go in. And then when they've achieved a particular snap streak, then they can be invited into bigger areas where people are sharing videos. Now, in Snapchat, there really isn't any regulation, any oversight, and children can be exposed to all kinds of videos in those spaces. And that's akin to a child walking into a shop that has got, I don't know, drugs paraphernalia, sex paraphernalia, pornography at the back, gambling, slot machine. And when you start to describe it like that, it can sound like parents have left their children unsupervised. So taking an active interest doesn't mean spying. I am not anti-tracking technology in terms of, because most of the social media uses it, but I'm not anti-tracking technology. What I am is anti-intrusiveness into a child's life. We need to be conversive, cooperative and collaborative. And what we tend to do is get very frightened, and then we say, well, show me your text messages and show me this and let me have a look at that. And I'm tracking you on this. And what we need are those conversations with our children to say, okay, where are you going, honey? Who are you talking to? How would you report somebody if you felt uncomfortable? Who would you tell? Because sometimes as the parents, I've raised two boys, we're not always the people they want to talk to. So do they have some trusted others? And quite often what the research is showing, and certainly over the past 10 years, I've found children will look to supportive friends rather than a trusted adult. So it used to be, if you need to tell anybody anything and disclose something, you go to a trusted adult. Quite often, children will message each other and talk to each other in these spaces.
Conversive, cooperative, collaborative when it comes to working with our kids in these spaces. After all, we are the first generation of parents to parent in a digital age. That was one of the key takeaways from our next guest. She is Titania Jordan and is the Chief Parenting Officer at Bark Technologies, which provides monitoring tools that can alert us as parents to potential online dangers. Now, their company had just released a deep dive report into what's happening online with our kids when we chatted. And she started by sharing a really personal story when her son first got on social media. Take a listen.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
Just out of curiosity, what has been the most surprising thing for you when it came to, moving into the social space with your teenager?
How mean kids can be to each other.
Yeah.
Just cruel. I'm so thankful for Bark because I got alerted to things that were being said and shared and terrible memes that were being circulated using not only his likeness, but my likeness. Don't get me started on that.
What?
Yeah. But to just know that these children, they're children.
Mm-hmm.
They're children. And good kids make bad choices, but the bad choices that they are making have lifelong consequences on mental and physical health. You're flabbergasted. You're like, I cannot believe children speak like this to each other. And I can't believe that the children who are watching this go down are not standing up for what's right.
Yes, that's the thing. Lifelong consequences here. And that is just in part of what can be so scary.
I just keep getting the chills at all these things that you're saying, right? Like we had a filter usually. There is no filter, so to speak. I mean, there are different things that we can do as parents. Obviously, we're going to talk about that, but they have access to so much. I mean, even searching for a video game element on YouTube. You ever see what comes up in the side of the panel that you didn't even look for?
Yeah. And that's, again, algorithms.
Yeah.
Algorithms, whether they're on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or fill in the blank. A recent study just came out from Harvard last week that the top 6 social media companies generated over $11 billion off of minors in this country last year. So they are not incentivized to make their platforms less addictive. And then our children are bearing the brunt of that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's addictive for adults. So you mix in a developing brain who also doesn't necessarily have the context of life and like, boy, I should not be spending my time like this.
Yeah. And the comparison trap of looking at everybody's filtered, acne-free, cellulite-free, 6-pack bodies, with white teeth and tans. It's not realistic. And it's so damaging for developing brains and bodies. And the list goes on and on and on and on of how social media harms not only children, but adults who are not fully educated and empowered as to the nuances of it. Tech is a tool. It's neither good nor bad, but how it's used and how it's consumed leaves a lot left to discuss.
It is just so different from when we grew up. I mean, you probably remember too, flipping through magazines, not scrolling on phones.
If there was one thing you could recommend for parents today, what would that be?
One thing.
I know. How about 15 things?
Yeah.
What would you put on the top of the list?
Yeah, I'll do less than 15, but
okay.
First thing I would say is just our children need love and compassion more than ever. We are disconnected more than ever. Our children are bearing the brunt of it because of the isolation they've received during their critical years of social nuance formation. So they need love and connection primarily in real life. If we can spend more time with each other in real life instead of behind screens, that is going to be good and healthy for everyone.
Again, connection. It's the way. Off the screens. We are the first generation of parents parenting like this, and we've got to figure it out together. Yes, that is a quote that really has stuck with me since my conversation with Tatiana. Human connection and balance in particular was also a big part of the healthier path forward when it comes to screen time and social media, according to Dr. Michael Rich. He's the creator of the Digital Wellness Lab at Harvard Medical School and helps us navigate the screen-saturated world with our kids.
But what I really recommend is to actually have a scheduled day, a structure to their free time. The biggest problem with screens is that they are open-ended experiences, and that those who make tech and media make it so that you never want to leave and so that you lose track of time and place. Just as you described with TikTok, right? It just, the time goes. I think that if the child and the parent together say, here's what we're going to do. I come home from school, I eat a snack, I go outside and shoot hoops for 15 minutes or half an hour just to get the blood flowing again. Then do I do my homework first? Do I game first? But I think that in terms of time limits, instead of having limited screen time, making the forbidden fruit, we should have minimal non-screen time. Planned minimal non-screen time when we are certainly in bed and asleep, time when we are at a meal, a sit-down family meal together once a day at least is the single most protective thing you can do for your kids' mental health, let alone their nutrition. Because we all need to download, we all need to break bread together. I mean, this is a tradition that has spanned centuries, this business of sharing a meal, but also sharing your hearts. Then when you cover all the things that need to be done and see how much time is left, what you're doing here is helping the child learn to prioritize, knowing that there is actually a finite amount of time in a day. There are only 24 hours in a day, and you need to get things done. So I talk about it as filling an empty glass with 8 or 9 hours of sleep, with that family meal, with homework, with strenuous physical exercise, and obviously there's school, and then see what time is left. And what you're doing there is having the young person prioritize what she or he wants in a planful way, and frankly, learning to manage time, which God knows all of us could do better.
Amen. Amen to that.
We also talked about recognizing the signs of potential trouble with our kids and screens.
When your child's behavior changes, when she or he says, I don't really, want to go to scouts meeting, or I don't want to be on the soccer team anymore. I just want to stay home. When their mood changes, and they're withdrawn, or they're quiet, or they grow aggressive and angry when asked to stop. And so I think that hopefully, one starts in a dialogue with them from the very beginning about being mindful and balanced in their use of these devices. And in fact, one of the things that I say is, how in the early days of the tech revolution, everybody wanted to develop a killer app. What we should be developing is our killer bees. And those killer bees are be balanced in our screen and non-screen time, be mindful in our screen use it as the power tool it is, and turn it off when it's not the best tool for the job. And most importantly, particularly for us parents, be present. If we are staring at our phone, we are not present for the kids. And one of the things I ask my patients once their parents are out of the room is, what could your parents do better? Talk about a subversive question for a kid. Almost always the first thing out of their mouth is, pay more attention to me. And this shocks the parents because they say, well, he's just sullen and nonverbal teenager when he's around. He doesn't. I see no indication he wants me to pay attention to him, but he does. He does. He feels very alone, and he is sorting out, who am I as an individual separate from my parents, this, that, and the other. It's important to let him know that we're there and we care. And the first way to let them know that we're there and we care is turn the phone down, upside down, turn it off, and look at them.
I mean, I absolutely love that. It is so simple, but yes, I mean, let's be real here. We can probably all do better. I am still trying to do better following my conversations with Dr. Rich and Titania and Kath. Be present. Like, this is on all of us to lead as parents, as individuals, as a society. And here are three incredibly well-respected experts in their field, all coming back to the importance of connection, face-to-face connection and communication. I gotta tell you, I am so grateful to get to talk with these folks and truly thank you for being a part of it. You're listening to Raising Me. I'm Adrienne Stein. This episode is edited by Megan Littlefield and produced with Nate Eldred. Please follow Raising Me wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, share a positive rating and review so that others can find these messages as well. Wherever you are, I hope you learned something new and get to take a little time for you.